Welcome back to another NovNov project. I am going to be restoring our user access today, or at least trying to. So when we left off, we were trying to SSH into NovNov2 into the new user account of S. Smith to give some user access to the droplet, but we were getting hit by this error. And if you were to do a bit of troubleshooting or researching, you would find a lot of things that talk about the permissions and ownership of the key on the server side. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. So I'll remote in not as Steve Smith, but as my root account that we opened up yesterday. So I have to put in the passphrase. And now I am root at NovNov2. And if you guys remember the location where we made those keys, it was in the home directory of the user in the .ssh directory. So if I go there, ls, cat those auth keys, there we go. We have the public key stored on the server, but we still weren't able to access it, right? Permission denied. And one reason this could be, if I do an LL or line list, long list, we made this as root, right? And so root has read and write access. The group of root has read access, and everybody else just has read access. And a lot of times you might see that that is going to cause problems, especially if you do a little bit of quick Googling and you don't dive much deeper than that. They'll tell you to run two specific commands to fix this. It is chmod 700 auth keys and chown the username colon the username auth keys. And so what those two commands do, I'll line list again to show it, they change the permissions from read write, read, read to read write execute, nothing, nothing, and the owner from root to S. Smith and the group from root to S. Smith. That is what this right here does. In the chown, in a previous video, we used chgrup to change the group, chgrp, but you can do it in chown with just the string there of username colon group name that you want to switch it over to. It's often used in quick setup of web servers. But now we've got our keys there, and what they might tell you to do now is restart your SSH service or the SSH daemon. Remember, bunch of tiny little Matt Damons running around. So with the quick troubleshooting steps you might find online, that should be enough to get us to work, right? So I'm going to exit out of the NovNov2 and then attempt to SSH back in as S. Smith. And I'm still going to get a permission denied. We changed the permissions, like you'll see. That is often an error, but it is not the only error that can come up. We have troubleshot the droplet side or the server side of this SSH connection, but the actual issue in this case is coming from the user side. We are not, mainly me, I'm not doing the right syntax to connect to a user account via SSH keys. If you guys remember, I used this command here to connect over root, and it is just going to pull my default key, if you want to think about it like that, which currently is stored in, if I do an ls uh, dot backslash dot ssh, I always forget Windows stuff. This is where my ID ed25519 private key is that ties to the public key on the root account. Steve Smith does not use this private key. Steve Smith is going to use Steve's private key, which if we ls and then put Smith, we'll see that that actually exists not in the .ssh directory, but directly in my current directory, right? So that is where that private key is. So essentially what this means is we went a step too far. We didn't keep up with our research as we were going, and we forgot to check the syntax. So if I do um, something like help SSH, this will search get help, which is the PowerShell built-in function for getting help. But that isn't actually what we want to do. I just want to show you guys the output. It'll take a second though, because getting help is a great way if you're working with just PowerShell commands, and it'll get you a lot of information there. So like we could get some more stuff from get credential. We can use that to get our username and key file. We could use functions, but I don't actually want to do that. If we do SSH space hyphen H to get the help of PowerShell, and it says unknown option. Hyphen H is sometimes the help way, sometimes it's hyphen question mark, but you can also just do a failure and it'll still give you the help to try and help you out. So we have SSH. We already went with the user at the IP address, but what we missed was the I parameter or the identity file. So if I go ahead and try this again, I'm going to do SSH smith at the IP address. I have blocked, so I'm just going to use the up arrow to cheat, and then space hyphen I, the name of the file where I am currently. So SSH space smith for the user at the IP address space hyphen I, and then I do this just out of habit, dot backslash to say my current directory in Windows, and then the file of smith, which is my private key. If I throw this one in there, it is going to ask, hey, what's the passphrase? And let's see if I remember what I set that to yesterday. There we go. Now we are at smith at NovNov2. This means we have user access to the machine. If I do groups smith, we did not put Steve Smith in the wheel group yesterday. So if your user was remoting in and then needed to perform administrative tasks, they would still need to be able to switch up to root. But let's see how that looks now. If I do su root, it wants me to give it a password. Did we give root a password? We did not. It only has the key file, and that private key doesn't exist on the droplet. It exists on our system. So we might need to set a root password so that if someone remotes in and they need to escalate to root, that is one way to get around that. Again, opening up root access is always a bit of a point of contention, right? We have it protected by key access through SSH. And so we have that failed login attempt from when I tried to switch user. But we can't actually switch user to that unless we have our user in the wheel group or we have a root password set. The easier way to do it would be to set the root password, but then we would have to share that with the user. So instead, what we're going to do is user mod smith hyphen a big G wheel. And all that does, I'll run that same groups command. It adds that wheel just like we did on our user account back on NovNov1. So now, instead of having to switch user up to root, we can use sudo from that Steve Smith side. And if I need to switch up to root, I could use sudo space su, which sudo elevates the command of su to run it as root to switch up to root. Or another way to do it is sudo space hyphen I for interactive. And this is where we're going to run into more issues. Because if you guys remember, I also don't have a password for a user. They're using a key, We can set a password for our user, right? Passwd Smith helps if I type it correctly. Only root can specify a username. Do you see how this becomes a little bit cyclical on trying to gain access and why you should plan and think these things out instead of just free forming them in a NovNov project that you are recording, right? Like I said in previous videos, a better editor than me or a better creator than me would go in and maybe edit some of this out, but I like showing the process. It's all about learning, right? So if you didn't set the user password back in the yesterday video, um, then you will want to set one now. Again, the third SSH connection is the charm. So we were able to remote in, but we weren't able to elevate. Now we're able to remote in, and we should be able to elevate with that right there. There we go. So sudo I or sudo space hyphen I, sudo space tac I, whatever you want to call it. It's interactive mode. It opens the shell. It is just like if you do sudo su. It just works a little bit different on the back end. So if you'll see the main difference is when I did exit, it gave me log out if I had used sudo I. When I did exit from sudo su, it just gave me exit. There may be something you could look into there if you're looking to push for more proficiency, but that is all that I have for today's NovNov project of reclaiming the user access that we broke and then giving that user elevated privileges inside of the system through sudo and the wheel group. With that, we'll be back again tomorrow with a little bit more poking around inside of our NovNov2 droplet in the digital ocean.